Dream a little dream of me.
Hey there kindreds, it's Jessica the Story Witch and welcome back to my channel and the 31 Days of Tarot Challenge. So today I'm going to do the last two prompts of the challenge, 30 and 31. So the question for number 30 really got me thinking. It is, what is the most culturally inclusive deck that you own? And it's such a good question, such an important question, because as a white female, I am very well represented in decks generally, because if any deck that I pick up, I will see people who look like me in that deck. And it's very easy for me to take that for granted and not really realise that the decks that I'm working with are not necessarily representative of other people with different ethnicities, other people with who are differently able, other people, just, yeah, basically not culturally inclusive. And that kind of shocked me and saddened me in a way, but it's good, you know, in a good way, because it's made me be much more conscious of my own choices of decks and how they are just automatically coming from a privileged position. So I'm really grateful for this question, because it has stirred up. I've looked back through the decks that I do own and been like, yeah, you know, they're not culturally inclusive generally. So really, really good question. So when I was looking back through my decks to try and answer this question, the two that kind of stood out for me as perhaps fitting into a more culturally inclusive, which are more culturally inclusive, were the Fountain Tarot, which was a deck that I bought this year, and I've shown some of these cards in one of the other videos. I'll try and find some of the people on these cards. The pictures are quite abstract anyway, so they are, they're not stereotyped. But when you do see people, they are not necessarily from a particular background, well, from a white background. There are different figures on these cards, and when people are, when you have darker skinned people on the cards, they are not represented in a demeaning way, which I've seen some decks which do that, in my opinion, and also do that to women as well, in my opinion. Like, I was laughing at Katie Flowers was talking about some decks have quite a very male gaze, and I don't own any decks that are like that, but you know, like, there'll be lots of very over the top breasts going on and things like that. So yeah, I don't own any decks like that, and I don't own decks that are from a male gaze, because I wouldn't enjoy that. But like I say, I'm already coming from a position of privilege as being a white woman, and I hadn't noticed that the decks that I was using were probably also coming from that perspective. So yeah, so this deck I don't think is like that. I haven't kind of like really assessed it as such, but I don't get that kind of feeling from it. I get the feeling that it is quite inclusive and not stereotypical imagery on these decks, so on these cards. So yeah, I think that is. And the other deck that I think would fall under the culturally inclusive banner is the Wild Unknown. It obviously uses animals and things instead of humans on there, which probably makes it a little bit easier. But also it doesn't, because I know Spirit Song, Paulina Cassidy's newer deck that came out last year, has been criticised for being potential culturally appropriative, you know, of using kind of like shamanic Native American imagery, and she's not Native American, so she's kind of using that imagery in a not culturally sensitive way. And I'm not sure about that, whether that is the case or not. I don't really know enough about it to be able to make that decision, but just because you're using animals doesn't necessarily make it, you can't like opt out of being culturally inclusive because you just use animals, I don't think, anyway, unless those animals also need to be depicted in a non-stereotypical and not in a artistically, culturally appropriative way. My twopence worth anyway on that. The other deck that I think possibly could fall into that category is the new Goddess Oracle, which I bought. I've shown that in one of the other videos too. And what I liked about that is that the goddesses from the different pantheons are depicted in ways that are recognisable as from those pantheons because of the way that they are represented. You know, the artwork is reflective of that. And I don't think that is cultural appropriation. I think that is being sensitive to the background of those goddesses and bringing that kind of into the deck. So it is such a good question, and one that really does need to be asked, and something that I will definitely ask myself in future when I am purchasing cards. So I'll probably be even more difficult to buy cards now, which is fine. I've got plenty, you know, I can totally make do with what I've got, but I'm definitely be looking out for this in decks now. It's going to be one of the questions that I ask myself when I'm looking for a new deck. If you are doing this challenge, you're answering this question, or if you've just got any thoughts on this question and you think that the decks that I've chosen maybe aren't culturally inclusive, then let me know. I'm always open to learning and finding out more about this whole thing. And if you are if you have answers to this question or suggestions for decks for me that you think are more culturally inclusive, then please let me know, because I would love to look up this, because this is something that it's not been on my radar, and that is not good, and now it is on my radar, and I'm going to make sure that I do something about it. So please help me to learn. I know that's privileged of me just to even say that, because I'm now kind of passing the buck on to people who are more educated, and maybe people who are from backgrounds which are generally excluded. So I'm sorry for that, but I am really open to learning, and I'm also going to do the work myself as well to try and find out which decks would fall into this banner, and hopefully one day all decks will be, because that's what the world should be like. Yeah. So the last question was submitted by Shona Hill, and I think Shona is the admin over on Tarot Nerds, which is a Facebook group which I really love. It flicks by so fast because there's so many people in the group, so many things in there, but it's lots of interesting things do come up there. And it asks about what tarot apps you use, and whether you use them on like a phone or an iPad or whatever. I have had a couple of tarot apps on my phone over the years, and the only one that I've got on there now is like an Oracle app, and to be honest I don't really use it that much. It was like a daily draw, and when my children were really small and that was kind of just getting cards out even every day was an issue, then I did used to use that then, but now they're a little bit older and I've got a little bit more time. I do much prefer to actually physically draw cards, so I don't tend to use apps either, but perhaps I'm missing out, I don't know. Let me know if you do use apps and if you find them really good, and recommendations for ones to have a look at, because I haven't been in that whole arena, I haven't really been looking into using apps. So yeah, warmest blessings guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Da